My name is Henderson, and I have been coming to Venture Church pretty much since I was born. I started following Jesus from a really young age. When I was about 5 is when I accepted Christ, and was baptized shortly after. I was exposed to a lot as a young child in a really good way, but my parents were intentional about ensuring that I was being exposed to a lot of brokenness and just the realities that a lot of people in our world face on a daily basis. And so I remember being young and going on missions trips to Mexico and seeing and playing with kids who were my same age, who we were building houses for. And we just lived such different lives because of the amount that I was given and what they just don't live with. And I remember going to downtown Charlotte and helping feed the homeless while my parents talked to people who were homeless. And just seeing those realities has really shaped a lot of who I am today. I went to middle school, and then after middle school, I was able to go to Ethiopia with my family for a significant portion of time. And the Lord really used those months in Ethiopia to give me a heart for the Ethiopian people and just a heart for people who were far from truth and who have never heard the gospel before. I came back and I went to high school, and I hit a rough patch in high school. I really wanted to fit in with those who were living in the world. And so I made a lot of really bad choices. I spent a lot of time with the wrong crowd and made friends with the wrong people. And I really just lost who I was in Christ. And so our family every year on Good Friday would watch Passion of the Christ. And after we watched that, our family was talking, and there was just this moment that God really took a hold of my heart and said, Megan, what are you doing? There are so many people that are so lost, people that you're hanging out with, spending time with, that are so lost, who've never even heard the gospel, and you're living alongside of them when you know me. And in that moment, the Lord really just shifted my entire life. I had plans to graduate from high school and go to college and, do what normal people do when they graduate from high school, spend 4 years in college, graduate with a degree. And the Lord shifted that plan that night. And I really felt strongly that I needed to go and spend a significant portion of time in Ethiopia. I really just submitted to what the Lord wanted me to do, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I went, and I made plans. And when I was 17, I got on a plane and was in Ethiopia for about 5 months, teaching English and spending time with kids who live in really hard circumstances. And the Lord really used that, those 5 months, to teach me so much about who He is and to draw me to Himself. The Lord really used those days in Ethiopia to really just shift my life in a big way. I became a guardian ad litem about 7 years ago and advocated for kids who were in foster care. And I was able to be their voice in court and write court reports expressing their best interests. It was not long after that I became a foster parent, and I've been a foster parent for about 3 years now. And I've had 4 long-term kids come to my home, and then I've had lots of other kids come for short stints of time, whether that be for respite or just an emergency for one night or a couple of nights. But I have had probably about 40 kids come and go from my home. And right now I have 3 kids who I was able to adopt last year, and then I have one kid who is still in foster care who I've had since he was born, so I've had him for about a year. If you would have asked me 10 years ago what my life would look like right now, I would not describe anything that it looks like right now. I did not anticipate that my life would be the way that it is right now. At 16, this was not at all what I had planned for myself. But it's been a series of just little yeses that I've been able to say to the Lord that has really led me to where I am. At Venture Church, we're super passionate about foster care and adoption, and it was not a new concept to me. Foster care was not new to me. Adoption was not new to me. It's very close to my family and just our church in general. And there was one Sunday It was the Sunday before I turned 23 years old. And I sat in church at the high school, and I just remember this Sunday was different. My dad stood up on stage, much like he does anytime there's a licensing class for foster care in our county. And it was just very different that day. I heard what he said, and I just felt like the Holy Spirit was asking me to go to that informational meeting and attend that class. And I just wept, honestly. I didn't know why. I was confused. I was not even 23 yet. I wasn't married. I wasn't at a place in my life where I felt like I should become a foster parent. And so I said yes and reluctantly went to this informational meeting. Something that they talked about that I really was like, okay, God, maybe this is what you have for me is respite care, which is providing just respite and a break for other foster families for a weekend or for a week. And so I was like, I am familiar with babysitting, nannying. I've been doing that forever. So I know how to do that. That is easy. And that's also a really cool opportunity for me to be able to serve families who are doing this full time. The Lord shifted that again. When I met my son, I was providing respite for him actually. And the caseworker, I had him with me that day, and the caseworker just mentioned that she didn't know why, but he was going to need a new placement, and she knew that I was a respite provider only and knew that I wasn't intending to take long-term placements, but she really felt like she needed to ask me if I would want to do long-term care and be a long-term placement option for him. I had zero hesitation, and I said yes immediately. It obviously was not my plan. It was not on my radar, even remotely. But I just had so much peace in knowing that that was what I was supposed to do in that moment. And so I said yes, and that yes single-handedly has completely changed my life. From the moment that I said yes to the day that my son moved in with me, it was about 2 days, and it was really overwhelming. I had so many emotions. Like, I have to tell all of these people that I said yes. What are they going to say? What are they going to think? This was not on my radar, so it definitely wasn't on anyone else's radar. And I was really nervous to share that with other people, even though I knew that I had a community of family and friends and church family who would support me no matter what. I just was really nervous. I was terrified. I've never been a mom before. I'm alone. It's just me. I don't know what I'm doing. And honestly, I had a lot of doubt. I was like, should I call her and say that this probably isn't best for me to do? Ultimately, the Lord gave me so much peace. Yes, I struggled with all of those different emotions. It was so hard. It was terrifying, overwhelming, almost frustrating that they would ask me, just so many different things. But ultimately, the Lord gave me so much peace in it, and that's how I knew that this is exactly what the Lord has for me in this season and in this very moment. And then my son came, and that night I felt all the emotions again because I was at peace with the decision. And then he came, and then it's reality, and he's here. And this is my first night putting my child to bed. And he's not just an infant. I'm not figuring this out alongside of him. He's a child already. He's already lived on this earth for a year, and I'm stepping into his life. It's not us growing together. It's me stepping into where he already is. And that was just a huge reality check of like, Megan, what are you doing? I cried a lot that night because I just felt really alone and like I didn't know what the Lord was doing and why he chose me to do this. I didn't feel qualified or, even able to do this as a 23-year-old single mom. Like I didn't feel like I was qualified. I cannot imagine what my life would look like if I did not say yes and if he didn't come. And if when he did come, I was like, you know what, this isn't a good fit. My life would be so different, and it would not be nearly as rich as it is right now if the Lord didn't choose that for me. And if I wasn't able to say yes and be faithful, even when it didn't make sense, every yes since then has been so much easier. I didn't have nearly as much hesitancy when they called me a month later asking for me to take his older sister. I didn't have as much hesitancy as I did with him because I knew that the Lord was going to be faithful to provide. Even when it's really, really hard and I'm experiencing some of the darkest days of my life, and definitely some of the darkest days of these kids' lives, he is going to provide for me. And so I can say yes. And it's gotten so much easier throughout the years saying yes to kids who come into care because I just know what that yes comes with. It comes with so much brokenness and so much pain and so much heartache, but the Lord can also redeem all of that. And I get to experience that within the walls of my own home. And that has single-handedly changed so much of who I am and changed the way that I view my life and view my home and view my family. Through all of this, what I've realized is that I am not far from being on the other side of this. I could have lived the lives of so many of these biological family members. I could have been one of these kids that are in foster care. I'm not far removed from that, and it's by God's grace alone that I grew up in the family that I did and that I've had the opportunities that I've had. And so here I am 3 years later, and I have 3 kids that are now my forever kids. My oldest 3 kids were adopted last year, and I cannot imagine what my life would look like if I didn't say those initial yeses. It's so much better. God's plans for my life, for my kids' lives, just for our family are just so much better than anything that I had planned for myself and my future family. And I cannot imagine what my life would look like if I was not able to say yes, or if I did not say yes in those initial days. I feel like I was made for this, but I don't want people to think that they can't do anything if they feel like they are not called to be a foster parent or an adoptive parent. That's really far from the truth. So many people have helped me and come alongside of me in this journey, and they haven't been adoptive or foster parents themselves, but they've come alongside of me and helped me and my family through our journey. Just, a couple of weeks ago, I was having a really hard day. Nobody knew that I was having a hard day, but it was a hard day. And I was washing bottles in my kitchen, and I looked out my window, and my brother Lemmy was outside with tools, and he was fixing my fence. And I didn't ask him to. I don't even think I've mentioned it to anybody that I needed my fence fixed. But somehow he knew, and somehow he found out. And he just showed up, and he just did it. And he didn't ask me. He didn't even tell me he was coming, but he just showed up. And in that moment, I actually cried, because that is something so little, and it doesn't seem like a big deal. And it probably seemed really small to him, but to me, it was just a huge reminder that I am not alone in this. I might be single, I might be young, I might not know what I'm doing every day, but there are so many people in my life that have come alongside of me to help me in different ways. This foster care journey is not just about providing shelter and food and basic necessities for a child who has been removed from their home. It's about so much more than that. And I have had such a huge privilege of sharing the gospel with kids who have never heard it. I've had the privilege of bringing kids to church who have never been to church in their entire lives, have never heard about Jesus or God or anything of the like. And so I've had such a huge privilege to walk alongside of kids in that and share the gospel with them and teach them what it looks like to follow Jesus and love them the way that Jesus would. And it's not only just them. These kids, they come to my home and they have biological families back home that they've had to leave. And something I did not expect in this journey at all is building relationships with biological parents and cousins and aunts and uncles, and building relationships with these families, because so many of these families are just really broken. My dad always says it, but this is about people and not projects. This isn't about just foster care. This is about people that are in broken situations, the hardest days of their lives. And I have the privilege of getting to share the gospel with them and share truth with them and share hope with them, because most of them are in such hopeless and dire situations. You don't have to do everything, but you can do something. And God is calling you to something. He's going to call you to something. And the more that you say yes, those initial yeses are really challenging, but the more that you say yes, the easier your yeses become. And you get to see how the Lord provides, even when it feels like there's no way, where He's going to give you peace when you don't have peace. And He's going to provide every single thing that you need. And if you surrender your plans to Him, then His plans are just so much better than what you had for yourself. And all we have to do is say yes to Him.